is Digital Music Trends, Midem 2013 edition, the second day of the conference, and I'm here with Ryan Walsh from Pulselocker. So hi Ryan, how's it going today?
It's going good. It's going really good. Good to see you.
Great. So let's talk about Pulselocker. First of all, the usual question, how did the company start up and how did you get the concept going?
So we're three people that started the company. So it's myself, Alvaro Velia, and Josh Goltz. Alvaro and Josh were friends in San Francisco. I was living in Pittsburgh at the time. I'm kind of the tech guy, and Alvaro and Josh were working in the music business. So they had been talking about why there was no such thing as like a Spotify-like service for DJs. And I was out there actually interviewing for a job with SoundCloud, and they had dinner with me, and they said, "Can you do this?" And I said, "No way. There's no way we can make the technology to make this work. It's not going to happen." Yeah. And so then I tried it, and we talked about it some more, and I iterated on it a little bit, and we figured out a way to make it work. Yeah. So we ended up building a prototype, and then getting that prototype to work. Then we came here, we bought a couple iPads from the Apple Store on our credit cards, came to Midem last year, and tried to get a content deal based on our experience and our prototype. And we got one. And then so from then on, we went and got some financing and started building the company. And
so if you wanted to describe Pulselocker in a really short sort of sentence to describe what the company does, right? What would you say?
It's a subscription music service for DJs. We allow you to play music like Spotify and buy music like iTunes or Beatport or anything like that. But the cool thing that we do is we have this thing where you, as part of your subscription, you get to try the music out in any DJ application. Yeah. So for example, you would take a song, you like it, you play it, you add it to your locker, that song gets downloaded to your computer, you can use it offline in Tractor, Serato, Algorithm DJ, any DJ app. Yeah. So it's part of your subscription, which is pretty cool because now you can play tracks out as part of a subscription.
Absolutely, and so there's two sides of the story, I think. On the one side, there's the technology side, of course, as you talked about, with the ability of third-party applications to tap into the tracks that are in your locker. Mm-hmm. And the other side, of course, which is so important for DJs, is the content side. Because, of course, you're a specialized service. Right. And like Beatport did for purchasing music, downloading music online, you are specializing in doing content deals with labels that wouldn't otherwise maybe all be on Spotify or all be on the traditional streaming services, right? So how did you go about convincing them that this model is worth going for? And of course, they are used to see a fairly high revenue for the sale of tracks because a lot of DJs still buy music. Right. So how do you convince them on your model that it's going to work and it's going to make them money?
Right. So there's a couple parts of that. One, I myself am a producer and a DJ, and I have small label releases. Yeah. Alvaro also is a label owner, so he has small label releases and has gone through the difficulties of being a small label himself. So we come from the business, and so that helps a lot. So Absolutely. It's not like we're random people that are just showing up as, hey, give us your content for free. Yeah. But the thing that is that helped us the most is some of the research that we saw from Spotify actually helping iTunes sales. Yeah. And when we did a lot of market research. I always say I definitely am not the final decision maker in terms of what happens with Pulselocker. The customers and the DJs are. Of course. I just have one opinion. So when we asked over 200 DJs, people that we know, everybody from world famous DJs to a guy with a club in Pittsburgh. Yeah. What they thought, and they said that's great. I really would like to use a subscription music service. I would use it, but if it doesn't give me the ability to buy the songs, it's less attractive. Yeah. So that was a really big learning that we didn't think that was going to be the case. We thought that people would try to replace it, and we thought it was going to have to be too expensive, and the labels wouldn't go for it. But in effect, almost 80% of the DJs that we talked to said, I will still buy music, and we just want to use a subscription for tracks that are something that I would play once or for a one-off gig or something like that. Yeah. So DJs are still in an ownership culture, and that I think that's working to our advantage. And the labels all know that anyway.
Absolutely. So you have different levels of subscription tiers, of course, on the site, and they are all to do with how many tracks the DJs can actually store in their locker. Right. So the first level, which is $9.99, is actually allows for unlimited streaming, but a fairly limited amount of tracks in Correct. The locker. And in that sense, it becomes as you were saying, because DJs are still in an ownership culture. It's a great way to upsell them to the streaming service if you also sell the music, because of course they might want to subscribe only to the basic tier if they don't want to actually use the locker. Right. To get specialized content that you have and other streaming services don't. Right. To try the tracks and then actually go and buy it. Right.
Yes. So the way that the pricing is set up is that it's based on the size of your locker. So Pulselocker ends up being like the biggest lending library of music that you can imagine, but also a store.
Yeah.
So for $9.99, we haven't figured out exactly how many tracks it's going to be because the pricing is not finalized yet. But say it's 10, 15 tracks. So you only have 10 or 15 slots, but you can exchange tracks in those slots. So you can have 10 songs, then pull them out, then put 10 new songs in, and just keep doing that. But we studied user behavior to make this model up, and what ends up happening is people say, "Oh, well, I don't want to keep exchanging. I either want a bigger locker, which helps the labels because we share revenue with them, so that the more that they pay us, the more revenue the labels get, or they just buy the songs. Also,
absolutely.
we share revenue with labels in that regard. So the whole model is based around giving subscription for music in general, so that they can access it with DJing, but then also making sure that they have the ability to purchase and own and to monetize the music in a way that the labels are used to.
Yeah.
I mean, for indie labels, especially smaller indie labels, European labels, this is the main source of revenue for them. And so if we made a service that was great for the consumer and super cheap, but did nothing for the artists and the labels, we essentially are killing our own market. Yeah. And we're from the industry. We don't believe in that. Yeah. I mean, I live in San Francisco, and there's definitely many companies and people who are working in the startup culture there in Silicon Valley that definitely have a sense that music should be free, like that just magically there's supposed to be 10 million songs for an app developer to use, and we don't necessarily agree with that because I know how long it takes to write a good record, and it's not an hour and a half, and multiply that by 10 million, so there you go.
So Pulselocker is of course aimed at mostly DJs or amateur DJs or professional DJs, and it's now based on desktop, so it allows that transmission between the locker and the third-party apps that are used so much. In terms of a platform, do you see any the iPad, for example, making any inroads into the market of prosumer DJs as a tool to actually do the sets, or is it still like quite a way away in terms of platform?
No, so I can say some things. So my philosophy and the philosophy of the company in general is that the tablet is the future of DJing. Yeah. I imagine that there will be no laptops in booths in 2-3 years. Wow. Yeah, so I can't imagine. I think that there's going to be a huge transition. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but Native Instruments just released that picture of Richie Houghton DJing with Tractor, or looking at the new Tractor iPad app at BPM and the Playa, and that is that's the first step. Because they're the biggest DJ equipment manufacturer in the world. Absolutely. So as soon as that happens, and I think it will be relatively fast considering how quickly tablets are turning over, I think that we're gonna have to be there as the content provider for devices as well as for the desktop.
And the encouraging part as well is that you see companies like Audiobus, for example, being able to connect.
I love Audiobus.
Different apps.
Audiobus.
And of course, that's something that wouldn't apply for you guys because Audiobus isn't open, and you couldn't allow people to record stuff from the application, of course. But a similar type of technology that can allow you, like you do on the desktop, to connect a standalone Pulselocker app to the DJ
in your
apps.
We have a couple ways technologically that we can get around sandboxing, which is really the thing that you have to worry about because you can't share content. That's what Audiobus is really getting around. I wouldn't count Audiobus out of our solution quite yet. We've been talking with those guys, and they're a very interesting group, and they're doing some really amazing stuff with technology. Awesome. I love those guys. As soon as we were having the problem, and then the same week I got the email, they're like, "Hey, we've solved this problem." I'm like, "Yes, thank you, Audiobus."
That's great. That's awesome. Cool. So
Audiobus, thank you.
So in terms of launch, of course, you were saying that the prices are not finalized. Well, what's your roadmap for 2013?
So what's going to happen is you'll see the Mac client go into full launch. There's a big update that's going to come on February 1st, and then we will remove the invite system in the middle of February, and then the launch will be for the Mac app will be soon after that, and then you'll be seeing another launch of the next product on May 1st.
And final thing, I forgot to ask: territoriality is it's always a big problem for streaming services. What are you guys doing? Did you manage to get worldwide licenses, or are you launching in specific territories?
So the territories that we're specifically working in are the U.S., Canada, and UK. UK right now. However, with the independent content, we have worldwide or worldwide ex-Japan licenses. And the major label content that we have is limited by territory, and it's on a case-by-case basis. So, but and also there's publishing to take into account there, of course. So, but we do have publishing rights for Europe using PRS's limited license plus, which is really cool. And so we basically have the rights to be in the US, Canada, UK, and Europe, and we will be working on expanding the rights after that.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Sure, no problem. Thanks.
And check out pulselocker.com.